there's a vibration, there's an energy to a company where people love being there. And is that sort of the thing I'm sensing from MongoDB? Because you're getting people there who are like, just really love the space and love the fact that they're allowed to be entrepreneurial.
I've worked on startups where we've had just 12 people in a team, right? And we're all on the same floor, but I am not allowed to speak directly to the CEO. Now I'm in MongoDB, a company with several thousands of employees, and I can talk to the CEO and he responds to questions within 30 minutes. So in MongoDB, you are allowed to be entrepreneurial. Everyone is allowed to take ownership. And MongoDB still has its startup spirit. So for me, not only am I passionate about the field of AI, I'm also a big fan of MongoDB from a technology perspective.
That was Richmond Alake, developer advocate of AI and ML at MongoDB, part of the new AI entrepreneurs who actually have jobs, because you don't need a garage to act like an entrepreneur. And forget intrapreneur. Richmond is an entrepreneur in an organization that focuses on bringing entrepreneurship to what they do. The whole idea of an entrepreneur within a larger company is really becoming almost for my own lack of a better word, almost a requirement in AI, because the initiative, I mean, how does MongoDB sort of keep you guys entrepreneurial?
So, firstly, MongoDB is a company that generally harbors a lot of individuals with that entrepreneurial spirit. And there are several reasons for that. One, most of our customers are really building things at the edge or at the cutting edge of technology. And to be able to experiment and discover ways to provide value using the latest technology requires some form of entrepreneurial characteristics. And we within MongoDB understand that, we embody that, and we use that when we're talking to customers, developers, and people that we work to on a daily basis. So that's why you see most people that are within MongoDB are very passionate about whatever they're doing. It might be AI, it might be pure database, it might be sales or communication, but there is something that is present all throughout individuals I've come across within MongoDB, and that is they are very passionate about being in the company. They're also passionate about the things that they do within the company.
What important truths do very few people agree with you on regarding the potential advantages of being an entrepreneur mindset within a large, I'll call it large, established company like MongoDB?
One thing is there is this common rhetoric that you have to quit your job, your 9 to 5, to be successful as an entrepreneur. That is not true anymore. And within MongoDB is even less true, because one thing you have to notice, or people that are listening, is your career can go hand in hand with your entrepreneurial journey. And I mean, your professional career can go hand in hand with your entrepreneurial journey. And you can actually learn a lot from people within this large corporate companies. Essentially, within MongoDB, what I've learned is to be obsessed. And I mean overly obsessed about people that are using your product. And if we relate that to my title as a developer advocate, my products, notebooks or GitHub repositories or videos or even this podcast, and being overly obsessed, what MongoDB has taught me is to think about who is on the receiving end and how they're feeling, what they're thinking about when they're consuming your content or using your product. So that is something that you may not learn on your own. MongoDB truly is a customer-obsessed company, and the best people, entrepreneurs or CEOs, are very obsessed about their customers.
So do you think the skills that required to be a successful entrepreneur within a large corporation, what are they different? Like in a startup, obviously we're very, very different, lean and honest and flowing on intuition. What sort of skills are involved in day-to-day that really help you thrive in this environment?
Now, one important skill is to be able to be both forward-thinking and also be experimental and move with urgency, basically. So AI moves at the speed of innovation. There are models being released every single week, or embedded models, or large language models, or tools. It's my job to be able to understand where the field is going at least 6 months in advance. And I'm able to then take that forward thinking and implement it within the strategies that we use to create, that we follow when we're creating content. So for example, very earlier on this year, we were able to notice that agents are becoming more reliable and more predictable, and more people are building them and learning about them. So we started to put a strategy together to help understand how, one, memory fits into agent, then how MongoDB can empower our customers or developers learn and use these agentic systems that will be coming out later on this year. So right now we have a team working on content, working on GitHub repositories, and showing up in the places that matters for our customers, our developers, to help understand this agentic system and how MongoDB plays within this agentic system we want to build an agent for. So these are things that we have to think about. And when you come into a corporate company, you can still be an entrepreneur. You can still act like a startup, especially if you're within AI. You have to move fast. You have to be able to learn very quickly. You have to be able to fail, and you're allowed to fail, which is the most important thing. But the key thing is learning from those failures and using your learners to inform your next action. And there is a lot of experimentation, I'll tell you. But you're allowed to have fun as well.
But in the business area, a lot of times that personal feeling of failure can be one of the most destructive things, because it's not failure. You're iterating, and most startups pivot from their original idea. If you see an idea and you want to pivot it, and I'm using the word pivot to mean move it away from the original direction, how do they sort of encourage you to do that so that's not it is a failure, but it's also a recognition of what the customer is telling you?
I'll answer that question directly into how I operate and how MongoDB allows myself as an expert to operate, which is, one, they trust the experience that I've accumulated over the years within my domain. So in MongoDB, there is a lot of trust. We're taught to be intellectually honest. That's one of the key values. And with that trust comes responsibility, essentially. And one of those responsibilities is essentially admitting when you're wrong or when you might have taken a wrong turn, but being able to apply the learnings into your next turn, being able to actually reflect and take a learning away from that, and being able to use that to inform the next set of actions that you're taking. So pivot is essentially, the way I apply it to my role is, if we look at maybe the last quarter, I might have tried out different strategies in terms of winning over our customers or reaching our customers or my customers who are developers. Some may work, some might not have worked. And I looked at the ones that have worked, and I look at the key learnings from that. But at the same time, we look at the ones that haven't worked and look at how we can, I guess, pivot into something that can work. You are allowed to fail, you're allowed to experiment, as long as you're learning in each iteration. And in a space like AI, it's very good that the space itself is experimental. So my role, sometimes I'm allowed to carry out different experiments, look at the results, introspect, and pivot accordingly, maybe on a month-by-month basis or on a quarter-by-quarter basis. It's all about being smart about what is driving the pivot, right? And understanding how you can align your specific action to the business values or where the business is going, and understanding why you're pivoting. What are the metrics that you're not reaching by essentially making you pivot, and how you can reach those metrics in your next action or in your next strategy.
It sounds like the culture of MongoDB is obviously built to let you thrive the way you are, but how do you get around some of the blocks of working with different sort of parts of the business that have other objectives that you, I won't say might come against, but it's got to be like, how do we work together on this? I mean, how do you get away from the silo thing? Do you know what I mean?
MongoDB has thousands of employees, and we all have doing different actions every single day, but we have a very focused leadership team. that essentially communicate. I've spoken to the MongoDB CEO directly in terms of strategies or things that we're seeing in AI. And this is a company with over 2,000 employees. And I can speak directly to the CEO. The leadership team within MongoDB is very in tune with what everyone is doing, their actions, and at the same vice versa, everyone is in tune with where the business is going, what the business needs to be aiming for in terms of what metrics, what goals, and what objectives are for the year.
The way we're able to break down these silos is by having an overarching aim objective that is communicated at every aspect of the organization, from leadership to the most junior member of any team. And we love to communicate with each other. So in MongoDB, I have conversations with a lot of very clever people just because they have an interesting insights on topics that I might be working on. So if you're within an organization where you have the best people within the world focused on certain objectives and are led by a very capable leadership team, the walls begin to break down when you bring in a very good communication approach, and when you're just talking to people and making sure that they're very focused on a particular objective.
It's a very, for my words, flat kind of management model where there's, people are accessible. You're talking to the CEO. The old Tony Hsieh holacracy idea was always a favorite of mine. And I got to hang out with Zappos one day, and I just loved, you started feeling like, again, this may be woo-woo, but there's a vibration, there's an energy to a company where people love being there. And is that sort of the thing I'm sensing from MongoDB? Because you're getting people there who are just really love the space and love the fact that they're allowed to be entrepreneurial.
I've worked on startups where we've had just 12 people in a team, right? And we're all on the same floor, but I am not allowed to speak directly to the CEO. Now I'm in MongoDB, a company with several thousands of employees, and I can talk to the CEO, and he responds to questions within 30 minutes. So in MongoDB, you are allowed to be entrepreneurial. Everyone is allowed to take ownership of the work they're doing, as long as you're intellectually honest, you're able to learn from mistakes. So, and MongoDB still has its startup spirit. So for me, not only am I passionate about the field of AI, I'm also a big fan of MongoDB from a technology perspective. So you're going to find the same story that I'm telling across people that have been in MongoDB, that have worked in MongoDB past or present, is that they are passionate about the technology and they're passionate about the field that they're working with. I use the technology in my production systems as well to build intuitive applications. So that that MongoDB really fosters entrepreneurial spirit when it gets its hand on some really key talented individuals.
Interesting. There's a real thriving mentality that is such an advantage as an entrepreneur, because a lot of us get stuck in surviving because we're not getting paid. But now with AI, the whole distribution, innovation, change is all being driven by these companies that are very successful financially. How do you keep that we get our innovation spirit in startups theoretically by the threat of not existing. How do you disrupt the AI industry within a bigger company? Because honestly, this is the game now. The entrepreneur game is at this level. How do you take the same disruption we feel at a small level?
So in terms of MongoDB as a business, as an organization, we have ears to the ground because we're very hyper-focused on our customers. And what that means is we understand the problems that they're facing each day when they're building these AI products and what they require from us in terms of features within MongoDB Atlas or within the MongoDB database. And as we can see, we released the vector search capabilities on MongoDB Atlas, and that was in response to the new, AI era of having the RAG architecture, having all this AI systems, chat interfaces. And MongoDB was right there with our customers, understanding their needs and creating features that could meet this need. And that's how we disrupt. We disrupt by enabling our customers to disrupt. We work very closely with a number of startups. So disruptions does still happen from the bottom up, as we can see with companies that are in the AI space. If we're looking at the abstraction frameworks, we have the Llama Index, the LangChains. Those companies didn't exist a few years ago, but they do now. They're the most widely used tools to build your LLM applications. And we have partnerships with those companies as well. We work very closely with the technology team on those companies to build integrations to help developers build the LLM application with MongoDB, with whatever abstraction framework they're using, intuitively and very, very, very seamlessly. So MongoDB works a lot with startups. We empower them. We enable startups. We have a MongoDB startup program where we give free credits and we allow startups to speak to MongoDB experts and actually even put them in front of formulate some go-to-market strategies for the startup. So we understand what it means to be a startup within a space where it might seem you're up against the wall, because MongoDB was there over a decade ago with no SQL. We introduced the concept and just going against the big databases provider of the world. But now we have that entrepreneurial spirit that we had back then. And we are obviously fostering the same entrepreneurial spirit in really intuitive AI companies that we're seeing today.
And I am enabled by my leadership team they trust me to go into the AI space and make some noise and be obsessed about the customer, which are developers, and educate them and provide value in any way. It doesn't have to even be MongoDB. If we're talking about AI, we have knowledgeable people within MongoDB that can help explore problems you're having or just have a very good discussion on the AI space. So disruption happens at the organizational level, the people we work with or partner with, and at the individual level as well within MongoDB.
Interesting. Wow. That's really powerful, especially because you're getting the way that an entrepreneur who's at a small startup thinks is going to influence you, and vice versa. It's very like entrepreneur to entrepreneur, which is really, to me, and it happens a lot in coding and engineering, because it is very much an independent kind of, world. It doesn't have to be, but what we're seeing, one person AI companies, the crazy idea of doing that.